Hi, I'm Heather Noël from the GivingGameFoundation.com. I am empathic and clairaudient. My friend Victoria is clairvoyant, and we work together to bring light into the awakening that we're all going through at this time. We are excited to share with you on this topic of death. Actually, this is one of our favorite topics because it is one of the least discussed topics out there. And if you look at this in terms of an imbalance, let us say, there is so much in your world, everything is discussed. Really, if you think about it, everything is out there. How often do you go to CNN and people talk about what is death? Really? They'll say, well, these people died, but nobody ever talks about, hardly ever, what the experience of death is. And so it's really interesting that the word death, right in the middle of the word death, is the word eat. Right? And so when you think about that for just a moment, doesn't it kind of eat you up your whole life that there's this this information that runs underneath that this is something we don't talk about and it's something that is unnatural. So think about that. Whenever a bunch of people die, they always die from the point of view that it's unnatural to die, and yet it's natural to be born. Nobody has a problem with birth being natural. Everyone's like, well, birth is natural, but death is unnatural. Well, here's the thing that nobody really quite understands. The truth is neither one is real. You are born into this game. It is a game that you're playing. And the only way to keep yourself from remembering anything is to be born into it and have no memory of who you are, where you came from, right? And so to play this game out, you've got to have an ending where even though everyone knows that death is the end of the game, it's the end of this game that you're playing, it's still something that kind of eats you up. So when we say that to you, Victoria, what do you get on a psychic level about that?
Well, what I'm seeing is this. It almost looks like an airplane going down, end of life. And the first question I say is, which I deal with myself is, wow, I'm having so much fun. I would hate to die right now because I'm having so much fun being in a human body, and I have all these projects and what I'm going to do. And so I think that's what lights me up the biggest is not being able to continue the fun that I started here in my human body.
Perfect. Excellent. So we would like you to tune into something that's even more fun. So you're like, well, this would be a terrible thing if I don't get to continue doing this in my human body. Now, clearly, if you understand that you've played this game many times, which you do, then there must be something that you do between games. Wouldn't you say? There's something that you're doing in between. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, now you think this is a lot of fun here. And you think, isn't this so great? I'm in a body. I get to have these experiences. What do you do when you pass on? You personally, you've had this in many lifetimes. See if you can tune into what do you do between lifetimes. What do you do?
Well, what I'm seeing an image, and it looks like a globe with like an eyeball in the middle of this globe, and there's like prickly, sticky things that are sticking out on this globe. And I look like I'm in some kind of a vehicle or something, just swirling around all this energy. And I'm going up, and it looks like I'm having an absolute blast. And so what it's showing me is I've got many choices of experiences as I'm going around. I can choose what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. And so, really and truly, do you have less fun or more fun?
Well, it looks like a lot more fun, actually.
Yeah.
Where I came from, it looks a lot freer and fun.
Right. So your big fear is that you're going to die out of this existence, out of this earth plane existence, and you're not going to have as much fun, and that's what you're worried about. But when you actually tune into it, you actually have a lot more fun on the other side. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, there's no responsibility. Yeah, no responsibility at all. And I'm just out having a really good time.
And do you notice that you get to do whatever you darn well please?
Yes.
Yeah, no obligation. So if you want to help others, have you ever had an in-between game lifetime where you dedicated yourself to being someone's guardian angel or a guide or something? Do you see any of that?
Yes, I see a big satellite, and I'm in the middle of this satellite, and I'm directing it. I'm directing energy through the middle of this satellite to where I want it to go, and it's white energy coming out of the middle of the satellite, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're directing it. Now notice that from where you're at, from this other perspective, much like your higher self, where the higher self can take in everything all at once, which you don't get to experience here. So here you have a limited point of view. If you're playing the game on the beginner's level, let's say. And then as you go along, you start to learn that your view isn't limited. But in the beginning, you start off believing that you have a limited point of view because you believe that you just know what your eyes see and your ears hear and your taste buds taste. It's kind of like a really small world. Do you see that? How that kind of starts off. And it's not that you actually are born that way. It's that you come to believe that because everyone around you believes that. So as you begin to start to think as a child, you begin to come from that point of view that, oh, this is how it really is. Because if you let yourself see, and you may be able to do this, but if you let yourself see just clairvoyantly, when people are born here as babies, they're very connected to the other side still, right?
Yes.
In fact, that's a lot of the mayhem. That's a lot of the mayhem that people go through with small babies. You know, they could have issues with their stomach or this, that, and the other thing. Well, every single thing that comes up with babies, or they don't sleep, or whatever it is that makes it challenging for the parent, a lot of this, well, most of it is actually because they're still tuned in to the spirit world where they came from. And they're like, what am I doing here? What is this? What is this diaper thing? Why am I in this, this prison crib? What? Oh, I need to cry about this. This is very upsetting, right? So then let yourself really see that. It's because they're completely tuned into the other side and all that freedom and all the power and all that. And yes, they consciously knew before they were, quote, born into the game that this was going to happen. But still, when you actually get here and it actually happens, it's like, what the hell? What was I thinking? Right? And we know who those babies are who are going through that. Everybody does. They're the ones that are the difficult child. You see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
now
I do.
The ones that are the ones that are the easy babies, and they just sleep through the night before you know it. You're having a really fun time. Well, those babies have done this before many times, and they're kind of like, oh yeah, I'm back. Okay, I know what I'm good. Yeah. Got it. I'm good. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and also these, quote, difficult babies, also there's going to be a connection with the mother. It's not just a one-side show. It's like they're co-creating together. The mother will have certain beliefs that coincide with the baby, all that. But to think that a baby's just a baby and they just don't know, that is just a lot of bad research because they are so aware. And that's why it's challenging for them. So as babies begin to grow and they're really tuning into the family, and this is where all that learning is taking place, they literally, what starts to happen as a child is sooner or later, as a baby or a young child, you're going to begin to question yourself. Right? So the child begins to question itself, begins to question its memory. You know, anybody who's had the experience of talking to a, quote, invisible friend, what happens? The mother doesn't go, well, what did you talk about? They're like, oh, they're talking to themselves, or they think there's some psychological thing going on, instead of getting that that's exactly what's happening. There's someone that you don't, as an adult, do not have the clarity and the consciousness to see. And so instead of, you know, working with the child and going, really, what do they have to say? It's like, well, there is no such thing. That's just an imaginary friend. Well, and what's interesting about that is imaginary is kind of perfect, because the only way that you can see other, like angels and other dimensional beings, is through the imagination, right? And but what's happened is everyone has, you know, been taught to believe that your imagination is you just making something up that is not real, instead of you tuning into reality and seeing what is really there that other people cannot see because they shut it down a long time ago. All right?
Yeah, and if they'd even, what I'm seeing clairvoyantly, which would be really cool, is if you can visit with the child is going to give you so much information that is so far behind the information that you can attain here on this planet. I'm seeing like levels of information coming in through this child. I mean, it's like the parents we're missing an opportunity.
Absolutely.
By not engaging.
Right. And this is so powerful. If you will engage, this is for all parents and parents-to-be, engage with your child. Keep notes. Look at what they say. You know, when Heather's daughter was very little, she was like 5 years old, Heather said, do you remember what it was like before you were born? And she goes, it's a lot like Hawaii. And then they moved to Hawaii, and Amelia told Heather, she's like, I was so disappointed. There were cities and all these things, and that's not what I was expecting. So she was kind of expecting to be in the spirit realm, you know, like, I'm going home. This is going to be great. And there were cities and cars, and because they moved there when she was 7, so, or 6 actually. She was 6. So yeah, so what we want to get to here is there's reality, and then there's the expectations. And so even before you leave the spirit realm to come here, you have expectations of what you think this is going to be. And so it's always, in general, it can be quite a disappointment to every single person that is born here. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Or you're just kind of, you know, you'll see. Every child is different, of course, but you can literally see a lot about who they are as babies, because there's a lot that they're processing. Now, what's really funny is that when you go back to the spirit realm, we'll call it, it's just the opposite, right? So you're coming in to all this limitation and all this it's a lot of hardship. Really, quite a bit of hardship. You get used to it, and like at this point for you, Victoria, you're like, okay, this isn't hard anymore. But a lot of what you went through growing up was a lot of hardship, whether it was mental, emotional, physical. There was a lot of hardship compared to the other side where that does not exist. There isn't the physical difficulties. There isn't the mental, emotional stuff that you go through here to play this game. Correct? You understand that? Okay.
Very correct.
So this shift back, so if you think about it, so you've come into all this hardship. The reason you don't feel it now is you have adapted to it. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So life doesn't seem hard to you because you've adapted to the hardship. You've adapted to all these feelings. So when you go back to the other side and people have the same fear, oh, I want to be here for this and that, and I love my life, and this is so great. Well, great. Don't worry about it then. Because when you do go back, you get to go back to where you came from. So think about that. There's this huge shift from the spirit realm, which you know and love, but you want to come here and mix it up and play the game. And if you really, really feel into it, you can feel that shift, it's just a shift. And the easiest way to look at this is imagine, and we've talked about this before, but imagine that you're having a dream, and then you wake up from the dream, and you wake up into your waking dream, right? So you go from a sleeping dream to a waking dream. And what you call death is literally like waking up out of both dreams into true reality. And yet you're afraid of dying, right? So all the limitations that you've had in dreams disappear, right? Because they're both dreams. Both of them are dreams. And that's why when people have a death experience and they share it, they say, oh my gosh, I felt so free. Like, my body was healthy and I feel young again and my mind is clear. Like I had no idea how clogged up my mind was. Right? All these fears and beliefs and, I'm feeling free again. And they just feel light and free. Right? Now, that's not the experience for everybody. Some people will, so the important thing to understand is that there are certain cosmic laws, and one of them is free will. Now, this is the tricky part of this game. The free will that you have is the free will to choose between love and fear. And so, if you're choosing love repeatedly, you're going to find, in other words, it's not that you have fearful thoughts, it's that you go, oh, I'm willing to let that go, or that's none of my business, that's not in the here and now, I'm willing to let it go, or it's all okay because it's just what's happening. Well, that's choosing love over fear, over and over again. Well, what happens is when you make this transition, when you wake up out of your dreams, in both sets of dreams, right? When you wake up out of your waking dream into true reality, you are bringing with you your free will. So if you have freely been focused on love, appreciation, joy, gratitude, and we would like to add this in, generosity. The more generous you are, this is why generosity is so important, because you cannot be truly generous and in fear at the same time, right? You might have a little bit of fear and you override it and you are generous, you see? But you're having to override your fear. Now, is it possible to give money to something and not override your fear? Absolutely, but that's not generosity. That's you trying to figure out a way to overcome your fear by giving, but you don't really feel it, and therefore, people get stuck in it, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I was trying to be generous, but it didn't work. I was generous and it didn't work. Well, what does that mean? You had an expectation, you were attached to an outcome, all that kind of stuff, right? Yep. So if you're truly generous, if a person is truly generous, they may have a little bit of fear about being generous, but when you override the fear and go into generosity, then you're going to see how the universe immediately responds very quickly, very quickly. In fact, the more clear you are, the more quickly you see this response. And it might be money coming to you, but it might be something else. It might be a creative idea. It might be anything. You don't know, and it doesn't matter, and you won't care. And it'll be fun just to be generous for the sake of being generous. That's how it's going to feel. So what happens is when people come to the spirit realm, and this is the real trick. This is why some people are afraid and some people, the fearful stories that are there. The truth is that you will experience literally wherever you're at, right? So wherever you're at, when you wake up out of your dream, it's going to get mirrored back to you instantly. Okay? And so, and this is on this deeper level. Like you may have people who, so in other words, you can't judge someone else and how it's going to be for them because you don't know how they're thinking and feeling. You only know this for you. So any fear of death, the best thing to do is just get yourself aligned with what you want to experience. So not only is that what you're going to experience here, but it's what you're going to experience there on steroids, because on the other side, you don't have these 3D limitations. Now, experiencing joy on steroids is great, you know, or health or happiness or whatever it is that you're open to and feeling. And even when we say health, someone may not feel healthy internally, but just the idea that it's okay is going to make such a difference. And some people can die of terrible, you know, quote unquote reasons, and yet the minute they shift over, what they are shown is not their beliefs about their physical body, because it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't count. However, things like alcoholism, right, and addiction, people can, in fact, shift to the other side and take their addiction right along with them. Even though it isn't real, even though they're actually not physically feeling it anymore, the addiction can go with them. And that's why so many people who talk about death and dying say, get as much as you can resolved while you're here. And the other reason that that's important is because you're here playing a game, and you're wanting to get to the next level of the game, right? So if you're stuck and you choose to stay stuck, you're going to come back into this game at the same level that you left. So if you come in on level 3 and you whine and whinge and moan your whole lifetime and then you die, you come back on level 3 again and you get to have another whiny, whingy lifetime unless you change your mind. And you can do this as many times as you choose. So this is what, yeah, right? And so if you think about it, any time that you are like stuck on something, it's because you just remind yourself, do you want to come and do this again? Because we guarantee you that when you come back, and you will because you're here and you've done it many times, when you come back, you're going to do this again. You're going to set yourself up so that you're at level 3. So when it comes to what you call death, it's important to understand that you're going to get to go home. But what is your home going to look like? Right? And that's what people are afraid of. You know, they're like, but what if my home is a mess? Or what if I, you know, it's whatever you say is so. And you can change your mind at any time, because there is only this moment. Truly, there is only this moment. And so think about it. If you have an experience where you think everything's going well and then something happens and you're traumatized, right? And all of a sudden, to you, nothing's going well. You could go in the Army and have things completely shift, or you could be in a car accident and decide that that's the real reality and that you're stuck, or whatever it is. Whatever you are thinking and believing is going to show up for you, right? And so that is what people are afraid of. They're afraid of, well, what if what I'm thinking and believing, you know, they don't know it. They're like, I'm afraid of death, or they think that death is bad. But it's like that is the thing that is kind of in the back of everyone's mind without necessarily be consciously aware. Like, for instance, even if a person thinks, well, you die and that's it, we guarantee you that there's an underlying fear that that's not it. Like, what if I'm wrong? Always. Right. Even if they swear to you that that's what they believe, there will be an underlying fear that they're wrong. Have you seen that before? Do you know what we're talking about?
I have seen that before. I had a relative that was raised in a religion that believed that when they died, they were going to the casket until the second coming of Jesus. And I was blessed with the opportunity. When they passed, I actually was able to see them walk away with their mate that had died before. And I saw on their face how surprised and elated they were to see their loved one take their hand and help them on to heaven or wherever they're going. And so, yes, I've seen that you don't stay in the casket unless you decide you want to just sit there and you choose to do it. It was really beautiful. It was a really beautiful experience, yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that it was a choice. Like if that person had been very, very dedicated to staying there and waiting around, they could have. Like they could have looked at this person coming to them and went, I'm just dreaming, I'm just making that up, it's not real. And they could have done that to the point that it would not be in their reality. And the other person who was there to bring them, notice that person would not have been able to argue with them about it because they wouldn't believe that person was real. Right?
Right.
Like, oh, I'm just making this up. And I'm staying right here, I'm waiting for Jesus. And it could have been a long, boring wait until all of a sudden it was like, well, I'm thinking maybe I'd like to have a different experience. And the minute that happens, then that new experience comes right back in. But they have to open up to it. So that's the truth for everybody. And the beautiful thing is, because this world that you call Earth and this Earth experience, because it is so challenging to see through all the blocks, there are these opportunities that always come in that are there, right? For the most part, there are some that are so fully, deeply convinced of their own, well, we would say their own path. We don't want to give it good or bad, right or wrong, dark or light, because that is part of the duality game that you're playing. But let's put it from that point of view. From the duality point of view, they may be playing what other people would consider to be a dark role, let us say. All right? And if they are really reveling in that role and really playing it to the hilt, they can very quickly experience exactly what they say is so. And it doesn't feel so good because on the other side, it's all like attracts like, right? And so you get a direct mirror of whatever you deeply believe. But most people will experience something that is light and much more beautiful than they ever imagined. And there is a process of adjusting, just like when you're born into this pretend reality, this game, there is an adjustment. That's why you get to come in as a baby. You have a lot of time to adjust to this very challenging environment. Because this is such a challenge compared to the other side, where there are no physical limitations, where everything happens instantaneously according to your thought. I mean, really, think about it in this opposite direction. You being born is much more like the death thing that people are afraid of. It is much more scary to be born here than it is to leave and go back to where you came from. Don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Which means you have to have a lot of courage to come here in the first place.
Yes. I went at the very beginning of this session, as you were talking about coming in to this reality, this 3D reality, I actually physically became nauseous. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that's kind of a reality check with
yes.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is much more like what people are afraid of in death. Like people don't talk about death because it's so scary to talk about. You know, they don't want to look at it, they don't want to think about it. Well, that's because they literally, it's more like you died into this. Like like that fear that people have that they're gonna go to hell, right? It's like anybody just, you know, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible. Well, it just depends on your focus, as you can see, because on the one hand, you may have this lovely upbringing and people who love you, but if you really look around at all the things you are being told are part of your reality, right? So you turn on the news. Now notice that there was a time when you couldn't do that. Nobody could tell you what was going on out there. It was just your little world that you were in. And now you're being told this and that, and then you start to realize, or not you, but people in general, some of them start to realize, well, wait a minute, what if this isn't true? What if what I'm being told isn't true? But the minute you start to wonder about that, then how far back do you go in thinking, I wonder if this is true, right? Like, what if everything I believed from the day I was born, what if all these beliefs I've carried all my life were not even based on the truth of who I am, right? And so when you think about death, think about this. You're going to get back very quickly to the truth of who you are. And the trick to this is that you can believe anything that you want about yourself. All right? So that means that people who've played a, quote, dark role, they can believe that about themselves, but it doesn't change who they are. Okay? It doesn't change that they came from the spirit realm just like everybody else, that they came in love and light and all this good stuff, and they came here to play the game. Some people, and this is really important to understand, it is important that people come here and play these dark roles. Otherwise, there would be no difference between what happened in the spirit realm and coming here. I mean, yes, you could come and play in love and light and create, you know, physical things and feel all excited about it and create fun realities, which is really what you're coming back into. But for a while, it was fun to play dark and light, good and bad, duality. Well, think about this. Doesn't it require somebody who says, I'll play the dark role. I like doing that. I've done that before. Let's do that. I'll do that. Or they might go, well, I want to play light this time because I was really dark last time, and I'm thinking maybe I want to do a little lighter this time, right? So you're going to have these things going on. But so many people are caught up in the idea that there are bad people, problematic people. Well, you came to play these parts out. And it's fun for you. Notice that you've had experiences that annoy you or piss you off or whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
And but what happens is when you're willing to look at what is going on for you, then you can have a new experience. And notice you get a little bit more freedom than you had before. And you get that freedom because someone who you felt was squashing you or limiting your experience, you had to change how you thought about them to get your freedom. They didn't do anything different. They didn't change for you, but you had to change. But it required that person to act the way they did in order for you to change your mind. Right?
Yes.
Okay, and so what we're telling you is that to understand death, you have to understand the game that you're playing. And part of this game is, let's keep death a secret. We're not going to tell people they've got their freedom because then who's going to stay and stick around and play this game, you know? And right? Why would you stay if it was so much more fun? So we're going to keep this a big secret. And we're going to make death a bad thing. And we're going to make death something that nobody talks about. Right? What if everybody knew, hey, it's a game? Now, when we say that, we would like to add one thing to this. So people might think, well, if it's just a game, I'm going to check out whenever, I'm just going to check out. Well, here's the thing. If you really think about this, if someone chooses to check out early, right, that is their choice. That is their choice because you're eternal beings, and they can choose to check out whenever they choose. That's not your business because they're playing their game. But when you look at your own game, and if you are willing to work on whatever it is that you came here to do, and here's the beautiful thing, you don't even have to have someone tell you. All you have to look at is any place where you have a knee-jerk reaction. Any place where you get triggered, that's what you came here to do. And it's so simple then, isn't it? But if you're willing to go through that and go, you know what, I don't really want to play this game over again. And so I'm going to work on this, and I'm going to shift this, and I'm going to do the giving game, or I'm going to work with how to feel better when things get worse because I want to play this game on the next level. And that's really all you need to know. Now, if you're willing to do that, and you're willing to shift and not play this game again, then is there anything to worry about that you're going to go back to the spirit realm in between games?
No. And just, doing the giving game and all the free information that Heather has out on the web that's just, you could just access it at any time. It amazes me, the information there and how much you can grow just by doing these free courses. It's like they say you can lead a horse to water. Will he drink it or not, And it's like, it's right there, And so yeah.
Yeah, so for you, so now that you're seeing this and you've got this clarity that it's all part of the game, now let yourself just look into this. Is there anything that you will miss? See, people are afraid of missing out. What if I miss out on this birthday? Or what if I miss out on the wedding? Or whatever it is, I don't want to miss out. Isn't that what your fear is? Like I'm going to die and I'm going to miss out. Correct?
I think my biggest fear is, will they not see me when I'm around? Because I'm going to be around my loved ones that I love so much. And it's like, but why am I asking?
But what if they don't know you're there? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
So you're saying I'm already planning to hang around like a ghost, and I'll be really bummed out because they won't know I'll be there. Is that right?
I think I just said that. It doesn't make sense, does it?
It's okay because people feel that way. But we want to take you on that journey for a moment. It's the perfect thing to look at because trust us when we tell you, you're not the first person to think that's a good idea. I'll just be hanging around, hope you get that I'm there. Now, let's take a look at that because isn't that quite a bit of are you really sure that that's what you'd want to do? So you get to the spirit realm. You can go anywhere in the universe. You can do anything you want. You're creating your own reality, and you're like, no, I'm coming back into this one. I'm going to hang out in 4D. I'm going to hang out and just hang out. And my big thing is I want people to know I'm there. Well, that's kind of like being a ghost, isn't it? And going, please, 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 please look at me. I'm right here. I'm a ghost. And right?
Right.
Now, are you going to be more free or less free by doing that?
I'm just going to step right back into the jail and shut the door. Be captured.
Right? So it isn't like if you do it that way, it's like, well, I never died at all. I'm just doing the same thing I always did. Right? I'm there for you, right. But you don't listen. Now, notice this carefully. How many times in your lifetime have you had things to share with people and they don't listen to you? They don't acknowledge your presence. They don't acknowledge that you have anything to offer. Has that ever happened to you?
Every other day.
So you see, you're already planning that I will not die. It doesn't matter if my physical body has played its time out. I'm going to come back and I'm going to keep doing this lesson. And I've already decided that. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, wow.
And you people who haven't been listening to me, I'm going to keep at it. I am not going to quit. I'm going to keep talking to you. I'm waiting for somebody to listen. Hasn't happened yet in this lifetime, has it?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like this, and you're going to love this. It is very similar to what happens when you decide to come here in the first place. You make a plan. This is the plan I'm going to play out when I come there, and this is how my life is going to go. And you get here, and have you noticed how little works out the way you thought it was going to go? And for that reason, on the other side, you have backup plan after backup plan after backup plan. You have so many. Can you tune into how many backup plans you have? Just take a look at that for a minute. How many backup plans do you have if the plan you thought was going to happen doesn't really happen? How many backup plans did you have?
A multitude.
A multitude, exactly. Why? Because you know what's going to happen when you get here. You're going to go, oh, I remember, oh, yeah, I thought it was going to go that way, right? Okay. So no, just let yourself feel into this for a minute. What if you are here now? What if you practice being here now? What if you practice right now not trying to fix, change, or heal anybody? Right? What if your relatives are sad when you exit the stage left, right? Is it okay for them to just go through their experience? You know, you may drop in and go, hey, I love you, and whatever, but it's like, do you really want to be attached to that, or do you want to let them go ahead and work it out themselves and discover that there is a whole other world that they have access to? There's a beautiful statement that Rumi said. He said, from the time you're born, you begin building walls around your heart. It is the broken heart that tears down the walls and opens you to the love of God. So if there are any broken hearts that are left behind when you pass and you go on to your next adventure, don't you want them to have the opportunity to have those walls pulled down and be open to the love of God? Tears the walls down that you built around your heart from the day you're born. It doesn't take a long time to start building those walls. It happens instantly. Why? Because you instantly feel the difference between the spirit realm and what it is to be in the physical world. And you go, oh, I have to protect myself. I have to protect myself from this world. So now you're going back to the world where you don't have to protect yourself, where you don't have to fix anything, where you can just be present like everybody is, right? And you're already making plans on this side of how you're going to do it on the other side. Oh, I know exactly what I'll be doing. I'm going to do that same thing that never worked in my entire lifetime, where I try to help people that didn't ask for my help.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Oh, dear.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we're guessing that you've gotten past that one, now that doesn't sound quite as appealing, correct?
I'm completely past it.
We love that about you, Victoria. Okay, so now let yourself really feel into this. Let yourself see what it is that you do when you're on the other side. We know we brought that up earlier, but you were kind of like still holding on to some old stuff. So we're just trying to get past that and let you have a moment to feel into what are some of the things that you like to do between game lifetimes. What are some of the things that you like to do?
Well, first off, you know, I was traveling to some nice places here on this planet, but the next thing was I was like, oh, looking at other realms and obtaining information, enlightenment, and celebrating in the information I was receiving. I see actually two different realms that I have plans on visiting. It's not of this realm, this planet Earth realm. It's two completely different realms, much higher vibration, and it looks like a very exciting trip, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, because that is exactly correct. When people pass over, often they want to go into higher frequencies. They're like, okay, I got way, 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 way down in that lower frequency, and now I want to take a breath, and I want to go do fun stuff, and I don't want to be, you know, it's like paddling through a cesspool sometimes, you know. It's like, you know, when am I going to get sucked in here? Really easy to do, too. If you notice how easy it is to just slip into it. You have had to spend your life learning not to slip down into the cesspool, and how to pull yourself out, and then how to get yourself onto dry land and all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of work, isn't it? You don't ever get to really have a break. If you think about it, you do not get to take a break, because if you do, if you go, well, I'm not going to work on this so much today, and then, you know, that might go okay for a day, but then all of a sudden these thoughts start to slip in, and if you do not make an effort to stop that from happening, from where you just go, no, I'm not going to go there, you will notice that you can very quickly go back into an old energy that was not comfortable, and it caused you to, where you felt unhappy in that, right? You can see that it can happen very easily. So you have to really be on guard a lot, especially you.
Yes.
You've noticed that. Yes. Well, that's why you go, hey, I'm thinking a higher dimensional vacation sounds really good to me. I don't want to play this out. I want to just go relax and have fun and learn and be, right? Well, that's exactly what happens. So now when you think about, quote, death, now how do you feel?
I feel fine. I mean, I feel, hey, I have plans. I have different
right? And it's not like you need to rush it, but you don't need to slow it down. You're just like, whenever that is, I will be perfectly happy. And notice that you can easily, and if you don't remember this, you will remember on the other side. You will be able to remember who you are. I mean, it'll be instant. You'll know who you truly are. But you will also know this for your children and grandchildren. You will also know who they are, what their life path is, and that you don't need to hover around for them to play it out, right? And it will be so instantly obvious, as it is between every lifetime, every single time you get into the spirit realm, it's like, oh, that's right. I remember now, right? And you can feel that, can't you? That it's instant. You don't even have to be reminded, because the minute you get there, you have this ability to see the big picture, which is part of what this game is about, that you can't see the big picture, right? You can learn to try to see the big picture, and you can see it to some extent, but no matter how big you think that the big picture is, when you get to the other side, it's a lot bigger than you have any idea, just because of how it's set up here. Right?
Right.
Okay. And so understanding that you're just, we like to change that to innerstanding, because you want to innerstand all of this, so that you have no fear. And guess what? You're going to communicate with family and friends. Once you understand this, you'll be able to share this to the extent that the person you're talking to is ready to hear it. And so you can begin to share the truth that death is not what people have made it out to be. So now imagine this for a moment. Imagine all the talk that's out there about, the latest disease and the latest jab that you can take, and people are going to die en masse and all this kind of stuff, and wars, and there's death in wars. Well, what if, instead of just using the word death, what if every time a, quote, death was reported, it was like, and this transformational butterfly effect is taking place for 3,000 people today. All these people are getting to transform and go back to where they came from in the first place, and they're out of the game. Woohoo! Can you imagine? All the drama, all the terror. It's like, and you get to go back, and you don't have to do it this way, and you can come back whenever you're ready. But right on, sister. You did a fabulous job. It was so believable. Everything you did, we totally believed it. It was fabulous. Right? What would be a new word that that doesn't have the word eat in it? It's like,
sure.
Right? Yeah, it's like, okay, everybody, all the caterpillars have gone back to being butterflies or whatever it is. And just notice how different that is when you don't have this scary word attached. And when you think about what does it really mean. And anybody who is afraid of death and dying, make friends. And once you make friends with it, it's impossible to get all dramatic about it. Right?
Wow, I call it trans-level. You're transferring to a different
it's beautiful,
level.
Right? So they have all leveled up, people. All these people, 3,500 people today leveled up. And they've gone, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah. And so now just notice that now just look at all the stuff that's going on, 2020, 2021, all the things that people are afraid of. And when you know that there is no death, you will never, ever experience death. People around you will look at your avatar body and say, oh, she's dead, but you know that it's not true, and every single person who's ever died and come back to life. And, of course, you got to love that people say, well, you didn't really die. That had to be a near-death experience, because when you're dead, right? You couldn't possibly have a death experience and come back, because that is scientifically impossible. And science is, it's the new religion. Let us get into that. Let us go with science, right? But if you really look at it from this point of view, that you do know, that you don't need anyone else to tell you what's going on. And you know that, Victoria, but we want to point this out, that everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. They may convince themselves that they don't know it, but everybody knows it. It is a deep truth that is always there. And when we say that to you, notice that as we have talked during this time, that the things that we've shown you, like when you thought, well, I would come back and be there for my grandkids, but the minute that we brought up this alternate idea, notice that one felt like your creation, but that this understanding, this inner standing that we talked about, notice that that was there right in the midst of your thought form that said, oh, I would come back and do it this way. There was already a little glimmer of light underneath that, where you already knew that that was not actually what you were going to do. Not because your brain wasn't convinced. Yeah, not because your brain wasn't convinced of it, but because it is the truth. So what did you see? What was that truth that you could see, even though you were saying something else?
Yeah, when my mouth was speaking those words, I saw this beautiful, bright light go up this roof, and then it went straight down the other side. I wanted to come back. I was like, oops.
Right? So that,
right.
And don't you feel that that's true of everybody who's here, that everyone carries that light of knowledge about the truth about death, that it's not real, and that it is a transformation, and it's no different than the caterpillar spreading its wings as a butterfly. right? No one would be like, oh, just
Right.
stay in the cocoon forever. Don't be a butterfly. Don't do it. It's not safe. Flying is not safe. Right?
Right. Oh, my goodness. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so every day, instead of looking at deaths, go, oh, we have all these new butterflies that are taken off, and we have new little butterflies coming into a cocoon to play the game. They're being born into that cocoon. They just made a little cocoon, and now they're here. And so,
Yep.
and it's not like you have to go through your whole life as a caterpillar, but in comparison, it does feel like that. Like, why are these symbols in nature? Why on earth would you ever have to have a caterpillar? And why on earth would they create a cocoon and then become a butterfly? Would you ever see that coming? Really, if you didn't know about butterflies, would you ever in any world imagine that this little creature who created a cocoon around itself is going to come out as a butterfly?
Oh.
Would you have ever thought that up, even in your greatest imagination?
No.
No.
Butterflies.
Like, it's
so
impossible.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Right.
It's impossible to conceive of. It's impossible to conceive that this little caterpillar is going to turn into liquid. Well, guess what happens when you're here playing the game? You turn into liquid.
Wow.
Look at emotion. How do you think of emotion? Liquid, like water, like the flow of emotion. So look at liquid. You turn from a physical material, so from this chunky little thing into liquid, and then that liquid transforms everything into being a butterfly. But if you ever wondered why couldn't it just come here and be born as a butterfly? Why did it have to go through that process? Well, guess what? That process is for every human being on the planet, because there is not one person here who does not know what a butterfly is. Everybody knows that you go from a caterpillar to a butterfly. A caterpillar, and then they go into the chrysalis state, and then they become the butterfly, right? Everybody knows that. Well, let yourself tune into this. Why were butterflies created?
Wow. So it's to show us that, well, it's actually to show us the different levels of this 3D and how we progress and how nothing really dies. How nothing really dies. It's just steps, the different levels. And that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and here's the truth of it. You can be a butterfly in this 3D or 5D existence, wherever you're at, but whatever's going on right now, you can be the butterfly here. You don't have to wait to have that experience. And it's really interesting because you'll notice that's what's interesting about butterflies is that there are lots of butterflies out there. How often do you see a butterfly corpse? How often do you come across dead butterflies? Rarely, right? Hardly ever.
Right.
And yet there are so many of them. You don't see a bunch of dead butterflies lying around. So what does that mean? What does that tell you? If everything is a message within the game, it's kind of like this. Doesn't it just feel like, butterflies, you love them. You don't think, oh, my gosh, I wonder when it's going to die. How long do butterflies live? Oh, this is terrible. It's going to die really soon because they only live for this long. Or there was a cold snap. I wonder if they all died. You don't really think that. You just think, notice how present you are with the butterfly. You're like, oh, so beautiful, so amazing. Look at that. Well, that's what it's like here. Every single person here holds that potential to be that and to remember themselves. That's the truth. Everybody can learn. And then when you, quote, die, when you're already a butterfly and you, quote, die, you'll just kind of like disappear. It's sort of like,
right.
it's not, and so from your point of view, it's like the world as you knew it just kind of disappears, and you're in a new world, and it's not like a big deal. It's not like, wait a minute, what happened to me? I don't know. It's just a shift. From one, it's just like when you fall asleep at night and you have a dream, only you go into a really cool dream that is the actual reality. But there isn't a big, wow, this is horrible. No, it's not like that. Not from your perspective. And that's the only thing that counts when it comes to understanding the topic of death or transformation or whatever we're going to call it. The only thing that matters is your perspective. And notice right now, Victoria, as you have shifted your perspective about this topic, look at how it appears to you when you see other people die.
Oh.
How does it feel now?
It's like beautiful. It feels beautiful, actually. It's a process, and it's very bright. It's not gloom and dark. It's just really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Transformation.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so now look at the world. Look at what's going on. Look at all the mayhem and the chaos and blah, blah, blah. And did it transform how you see that, all of it?
Right. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I don't have to be so caught up in the drama, It's like,
correct.
Oh, it's just there. Yeah.
And everyone gets to play it their own way. Every little butterfly gets to become a butterfly in its own time. Every cocoon is different. Every caterpillar is different. Every butterfly is unique, right? So you don't have to get worried about it. You don't have to get involved in it. You can just let it be.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a freedom in that.
There is. There is, and you don't have to get everybody else to line up with you. You just claim your freedom, and that's all that's important. You claim your freedom. And then other people might come to you and go, hey, why are you so free about all this? And you're like, well, I'd be happy to tell you, as opposed to, hey, everybody, let me tell you the truth, right? Notice the difference, so different than, hey, I need to explain this. No. You just do it yourself. So simple. Just like the butterfly and the caterpillar. The caterpillar doesn't get out there and tell all the other caterpillars how to create a cocoon. They just do it. And they turn into butterflies. And they go, right on, I'm flying now. This is really cool. They don't go back to the caterpillars and go, hey, listen, snap it up. You're going to be a butterfly soon. Just get with it. Stop being a caterpillar and get going on that whole thing that you're going to put yourself in before you turn into liquid. Really think about that. If anyone knew that they were going to turn into liquid before becoming a butterfly, would they do it? No, probably not. They're going to go, no, you are crazy. How many times have you been told you're crazy? Right? You're just crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. You're not normal. Nobody, right, because this is what is really happening, and everyone has to do their cocoon in their own time. And do people spend lifetimes as caterpillars without ever getting to the cocoon part? Indeed, they do. And so there are people that you're watching right now who are just doing another caterpillar lifetime. But now the beautiful thing is you can look at people now and go, ooh, caterpillar. Oh, maybe there's a little cocoon action going on there. I'm thinking it's coming, right? Oh, there's a butterfly. Oh, I'm so excited, right? So from that perspective, notice that death has no hold on you. And wasn't that something that Jesus talked about, like something about death not holding, not having its claws on you, right? Well, it just doesn't. Once you understand it this way, it can no longer overpower you. And it's no more real. It's no more, it's all part of the same game. And thank goodness you have a way out. And now when you
Yes.
think about people who want to live forever, don't you go, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You want to be a caterpillar how long? Okay, well, interesting choice. Right? Can you imagine if caterpillars could do like those surgeries to stay young? I'm just going to stay as young as I possibly can. I'm going to stay a caterpillar for as long as it takes.
No.
Yeah. Right?
Right.
Okay. So now your whole perspective has changed, and that shows you it is only a perspective, and it also shows you that the light has been there all along, that there's nothing we've said to you today that you did not deeply know yourself. Right? You already knew all of this. Otherwise, you couldn't have heard it. Yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's the truth for everybody. Everybody has the light of truth in them, always. It is always there. And the light is always burning brightly, but you can choose to put a bushel basket over it or cover it up, but it's still doing its thing. And if you choose to take the bushel basket off, you go, oh, there's that light. Right? It's always been there. Just let yourself feel into how that feels, that you've always known this. Always. Even go back and look at yourself at another time in your life. Did you or did you not know this deep truth that you just let yourself see?
Absolutely. More than one lifetime, I knew.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just you go, okay, I'm going to let myself in on that one. That's one of those secrets I keep from myself. But now I'm going to let myself in on that secret. Because now would be fun to see it. But I've always known it. Always.
Right.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
No. Thank you. Thank you for this enlightenment. I love it.
And thank you for participating in it, Victoria. It's always so much fun to talk with you. Thank you for joining us at Psychic Insights. You will often hear me refer to life as a game. To understand this concept on a deeper level, listen to the GAME Audiobook by Heather Noël. There's also a free 60-day e-course at thegivinggamefoundation.com. Links are in the description box. Be sure you like, comment, subscribe, and click on the bell if you'd like to receive more of these talks. Thank you.